Welcome to the School of Wedding Photography. I'm here with Chris Glenn, a photographer from California in the United States. How are you, Chris?
How's it going? What's up?
Yeah, I'm good. Chris was one of the 30 Rising Stars of Wedding Photography by Rangefinder Magazine 2017. What impact has that had on your life?
Not as much as young entry level photographer Chris would have originally thought.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's I guess it's kind of depending on maybe like what you're looking for to get out of something like that. But it's always nice just to have people that aren't like your parents or married to you to be like, hey, I like your photos. Look at those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, it's just sometimes, something like that was just like a nice pat on the back. It was insanely flattering. Caught me off guard.
Can you tell us a bit how it happened? So the background?
Just very abruptly got an email saying that, hey, we like your photos. We want you to now look over the entire body of the work you've done since you started taking photos. Pick out 30 photos that pretty much maybe like label like who you are, like what your brain's going through when you're taking photos.
Yeah.
And then send us those 30. So I feel like what should have been a much quicker process turned into like a month and a half of me like agonizing and like making galleries and then having my wife go through. But yeah, it was harder than I thought, but I guess it kind of helped me almost like when you're forced to kind of give yourself like a designation of like, hey, this is what I like taking photos of during weddings. This is maybe like how my style would translate into words. It made me think about that for kind of like the first time and really kind of hone in on it and like kind of pinpoint me to like a direction that I didn't know I was going in. I was still trying to find, like my voice.
Yeah.
But
and so what? Yeah, what did you find? What is that direction?
Just I guess like my main thing that I took from it was look around more, just it's sometimes it's easy just to like focus on like either like core shots you want to get, maybe you have a list of photos that you have to get, but it kind of changed up the way like I approach a full wedding day as opposed to before, when I was in my beginning years. I kind of had like a very structured like almost like mental shot list that I wanted to go throughout the day, or like, oh, I have to get like these core shots. Yes, I still want to do those, but now it's something where it's just like muscle memory, like it's engraved. Like I know in 15 minutes I need to be here for this, but in between, I guess some of the photos that I picked out and submitted to a rangefinder were a lot of them weren't of the bride and the groom, or you couldn't see their faces, and it made me focus more on like the event as a whole, and especially like the people at events. So I think just everything like at wedding day now that I deliver is just very robust, and I want to try to capture as many personalities as I can. And for the most part, I try to look for people doing kind of weird things during wedding days. Just made me open my eyes, look around a little bit more, and be more conscious of like, instead of just arbitrarily kind of taking a photo, just be more methodical and kind of think about it a little bit more. But yeah, it was nice, every once in a while, someone saying, hey, this is fun, this is cool, good job.
Yeah.
It was neat.
You said on your website, you can only plan so much, learn so much. Sometimes you need a bit of luck.
Oh yeah.
What are you talking about there?
I think what I was thinking when I put that on was, I mean, you could be the best street photographer. You could be an in-studio person that just like has their technique dialed in. Just, you can do any crazy lighting setup. But in the end, a lot of the, timing of when you trigger the shutter and, either like a model is doing something or they're just going through some weird micro expression and you happen to get it, or street photographer just, yes, a lot of position and planning and, thinking goes into it. But a lot of times it just comes down to like being in the right place at the right time and like when I get to talk to couples beforehand, that's one of my main things is like, I don't know what it is, but I just have a gift of like anticipating and being in the right place at the right time. So a lot of times I try to hope and maybe think like, oh, I think this person is going to have this reaction, when this happens. So I'm going to position myself over here. So, and then sometimes what I was picturing them doing happens and we get a great photo. But sometimes literally a lot of like my favorite photos are like if I'm just walking and I see something going on, just walking over very quickly and taking one frame, and
yeah.
It works. But yeah, I think luck for a lot of luck goes into like a well-rounded, like what I would define someone as being well-rounded.
Yeah. Do you think that that sort of that luck has come from a lot of work? Do you think it's sort of the product of that, of working hard for a long time?
I think so. I think it definitely plays a bit of a role in it. Like pure luck is pure luck, but then also, just kind of maybe positioning yourself to just
anticipating
up those, just kind of up those percentage chances that it's going to actually happen, or you're going to be able to see it.
Yeah.
I think with experiencing so many different types of personalities, locations, lighting scenarios, wedding photographers go through it all. And I mean, there's different families that, personality types that I've never experienced before I started doing this. And, you get to learn a lot of, I think I'm good at anticipating. So, but yeah, it definitely comes from, being around hundreds of different families in these like very intimate settings on these very emotional days.
Yeah.
It just like amplifies what's going on inside of people.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, kind of you definitely learn how to read people a little bit better. So,
Have you always been a photographer?
No. If you would have asked me probably like eight or 10 years ago, what I would have been doing full time right now, I would have, photographer, and then like the subset of wedding photographer would not even have been a blip on a radar. I was a water ski instructor for a long time, and then I managed a bar for a real long time in Orlando, and that's kind of like when I started picking up a camera and traveling and just taking photos of a lot of inanimate objects.
Okay. And so then how did you get into weddings?
So I had a camera and I had like a few photos on Facebook, and a friend I was sharing a house with, her older sister was getting married, and she was like, "Hey, I want you to shoot my wedding." And I was like, "Ha, okay." Like, cool, like, thanks, I appreciate it. And she was like, "No, I think you do a great job." And I was like, "No, I have like pictures of rocks and cactus and mountains and just all the stuff that when you figure out like, oh, cool, look at this, like look at what shallow depth of field in a photo looks like on like this pair of socks on the floor of my room. Like, I took a great photo." So that's like all I had. And she was like, "Hey, photograph my wedding." And I told her no. And then, I think she handed me like a couple $100 one day. And I was like, "All right, you're doing it." And then I ended up renting so much money in gear that I never really even used, and sweated profusely and was super nervous the whole time. But afterwards, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, I think I'd maybe been to like 2 weddings at all of friends getting married or family getting married. So I don't know, the image I had in my head of a wedding photographer was not a pleasant one. It was just this person like barking orders a lot of the times, and pretty much like keeping you as a groomsman or a bridesmaid, or the bride and the groom, pretty much keeping you from like going off to like what you want to do. So, but that's the image I had as a kind of a younger, naive person. And once I did that wedding, and I didn't really give it too much thought afterwards. And then like many months later, I think like 9 or 10 months later, one of her bridesmaids got married and asked me to do it. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, this should be, the first time with everyone, it was super fun. Like, I'm in. And then a few months after that, it was more word of mouth. And I went down to the Keys and made friends with this venue owner down in the Keys, and started getting a lot of weddings down in the Keys. And I think that's kind of I don't want to call myself like a destination photographer, but I definitely do a higher percentage of weddings that I have to fly or drive a few hours to. But I think, yeah, being in the Keys and having like all these tropical uh, photos in like different areas that look a little different, I think people started just assuming like, oh, this guy's down to travel. Um, so yeah, and then yeah, it just snowballed, kind of slowly. And one day I just woke up and I was like, I think I'm gonna quit my job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I had to give people advice now, and they're like, well, how'd you do it? I was like, I did it very irresponsibly, and I definitely used emotion and way over like rational thinking. But yeah, I would say maybe save a little bit more money, but I got, again, luck. I think I got like 7 bookings in like the first like week and a half of like me quitting my job, and I just put it out in the universe, and maybe it came my way. But there might have been some other factors. I'm sure some people said some nice things along the way and definitely helped me out. But yeah, luck goes into it a little bit. I think you could be, again, super skilled, super good in business, but there's always like a little variable of luck hiding in there.
Yeah.
It just snowballed, and I just fell in love with it.
Yeah. How many destination weddings are you doing these days?
So this year I capped myself at 25 weddings total.
Okay.
And I think if we were to look at like today's date, 12 months from now, I think I'll probably have to fly to like 15 of them, 12 or 15, and the rest are kind of somewhere in, Southern California to San Francisco. So not too, yeah.
Are you looking to work sort of more locally?
I mean, traveling is just like this thing that just, it releases endorphins. You're super amped. I'm going to a new spot, blank slate. That for me is I feel like I love that so much. But at the same time, I'm still new to California. I've only been here for 3 years, so a lot of the venues also are just, there's so many amazing spots that are like within a 4-hour drive. So I still have not shot at the same venue the 3 years I've been here yet. Which I think is awesome. It's crazy. But, I definitely wouldn't mind it. Baby Talk has started over here. So, trying to plan. I'm like, all right, what's like 9, 10, whenever this happens, where am I going to be, and how much time am I going to have, around the home? So that's definitely, I've definitely put a few more efforts into, getting the word out locally as opposed to, kind of national stuff. But
the city that you're in at the moment, what's that called?
So I'm in Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, Santa Ana.
Okay. Is there enough of a market there for you to be doing more?
Probably. Actually, I have a wedding next weekend that is at a venue I think that just opened. That's like a minute and a half away from my house, so it's pretty cool. That'd be nice. Just gonna ride my bike right down to it. But to be honest, I don't do much within. Most of it's going up to LA. A lot of stuff in kind of like the Bay Area, and then I got married out in Joshua Tree. But I would say of all my kind of local weddings, the desert is where holds a special place for me, and it's
Why is that?
So nice.
Because you got married there, or?
Yeah, so I proposed to my wife when we moved to California a week after moving here, and then once we started thinking about like, hey, we have no idea of any of these spots in the state. Let's go here to try to find like a wedding venue, but also to explore it. And I think we had like Big Sur, somewhere else, and then Palm Springs, Joshua Tree on the list. And we just happened to go to Palm Springs and Joshua Tree first. And the second we got there, I was just like, well, check. This is it. And anytime that we do like a staycation or just need to turn phones and computers off and disappear for a few days, like I never thought I would, because I love the ocean so much. I never thought that I would love just like solitude in like a dry, dusty place as well. But I just love it. I love like the vibe out there, people's mindsets that kind of get married out there. they're like a little bit different sometimes. Design's a little bit different, and the light's hard to beat when you just get some nice natural reflector coming off that sand, and just looks super good. So
Yeah. How do you define being successful as a wedding photographer?
Oof. I think just being able to. So this is kind of the first time that I've ever been self-employed or, entrepreneurial. Can't say that word. Entrepreneur.
You're real.
Not
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
There we go. But it's definitely a little scary, like leaving a day job and a paycheck and health insurance. But for me, it's sometimes like on a Tuesday, if I just need to reset, I can just grab a surfboard and go for a swim for an hour, come back. And if I don't want to, if I'm editing photos or if I'm making certain selections or if I'm, putting together like mood boards or some sort of creative project, sometimes you're just not in the right mindset, and you don't have to, you don't have a set number of hours that you have to do it by. So I love, I get a lot of my work done between 10:30 p.m. and like 3 a.m. So I think just having that flexibility in life and pretty much for me, it's making my own schedule. And, that's when I first viewed, I'm like, all right, if I'm going to go full time, I'm going to be comfortable where I am. Having a beach house and a ton of money and a Tesla isn't a huge motivator for me. I think I spend all my money on old film cameras and plane tickets for my wife and I. So as long as I can keep that up and always have some sort of vacation on the horizon a year from now, I'm a happy camper, and I would call that successful. So
okay. What happens with the American healthcare system is something that sort of we hear a lot about in Australia, or lack of. Do you have to pay, as a self-employed person, do you have to pay for your own healthcare?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And do you do that?
So it's nice because my wife has healthcare. So I was on that for a while, and then it started getting really expensive. So I actually found a health share company that a friend turned me on to. So yeah, I pay for my.
What does that mean? Health share.
To try to make a long explanation short, it's like a pool almost. So like you put in X amount of dollars a month, and like they give you some benefits for just kind of like general stuff. But at the same time, like say if I were to get in a motorcycle accident, it would be kind of taken like out of that group share pool, but people are still kind of putting into it. So the idea is not to use it for just like little mundane things. Like my main thing is it's just like traumatic things that would happen is pretty much what I'm mainly thinking about it covering. But yeah, there's like different levels of different things you can pay for, but it's all you got to pay for it out of pocket.
Yeah, interesting. All right, let's get back to photos and weddings for a minute. What are your thoughts on the sort of wedding industry today, the climate today?
I think it's dynamic would be a word maybe I would use. It's crazy that after you've been doing it for a little bit, I just feel like if anything, it's getting like way more competitive. So it's cool because it makes you stay on your toes. You can't get lazy. You can't just expect things. I mean, I feel like it changes very quickly.
When did you start shooting weddings? Sort of when was your first season?
So that story I was speaking of, that very first wedding, I want to say it might have been like 2010, 2009 or 2010, and then almost like a year went by before the next one. Yeah. But once I got like kind of like in the role, so I've been full time for like 5.5 years. Yeah. Even like when I first went, I mean, when you first start out, it's such a whirlwind. Like when you kind of go full time and you're fully responsible for yourself. You're learning and you're coming up, but now I think once you've been shooting for a little bit, you start like looking, kind of putting feelers out, seeing like where the trends are going, but also at the same time without getting into trends is a tough thing to do because I guess I attract a certain. I usually shoot like a certain age group of people. I think that are attracted to my work. Um, but I mean, still, I get people kind of all over, like all sorts of different demographics, in the same breath. Um, but yeah, I think with the climate, there's so much out there. There's so much content that like people are just like, if you want to, you can be constantly bombarded by it. Um, that I think is an interesting thing that I didn't really notice when I first got started for the first few years. I think
Mm.
it's definitely amplified in a big way recently.
Mm.
And that's also even from planning my own wedding. So I've only been married for 2 years, and my wife and I, we would, I, like at the time I was following certain wedding blogs. I started following more. She started following a lot, and she was like, "It's crazy. It's so easy to get just like kind of just overwhelmed with just all this stuff. It's like this is what you should do. Look how cool this is. This person did this." Um, yeah, trying to turn the noise off in the background is a tough thing. So.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, it's I'm trying to think like the to describe it. It's definitely saturated, but it's in a good way. Like it's not necessarily a bad thing because that just means people that are shopping around trying to find someone if they haven't already been following someone. There are a lot of options out there, and people have very very unique personalities these days. So there's a lot of people in the world. There's a lot of people out here in Southern California, kind of all over the place too. But
Yeah.
uh, I think if you put out consistently good work, that type of person that you're wanting to draw in is going to ultimately be drawn to you. If you want to be kind of have more of a mass appeal, it's definitely doable in the way like you present yourself and you present your work. Um, but yeah, like I think with such a heavy saturation in the market these days, it forces people into these much more defined maybe style types. I kind of have been noticing it like a little more and more. So instead of just being like a more broad kind of general appeal, yeah, with so much noise out there, people are like, all right, I'm very particular. I'm getting married in the desert. I'm going to start looking at desert photos. And that kind of takes you down this ramp of, maybe if you find someone and you see that they just shoot like in hotels, or if they just shoot like on misty mountaintops, you might not be drawn to them. But if you see someone that mainly shoots like out in the desert, be like, well, this person, I'm gonna go. I think visually, I'm gonna go in that direction. But yeah, it's not a bad thing when a lot of people are trying to do the same thing. Competition is heavy, but at the same time, it's really awesome having groups of friends that are photographers and bouncing ideas off of them. Venting every once in a while if you need to. If there's someone in your very select line of work would get, it's going to be some other wedding photographer. Just little things here and there, like sending referrals. But yeah, I don't think a heavy market saturation is a bad thing. It's just going to make you kind of look in more on yourself and kind of dive a little bit deeper. And like I said, it's just I think it. What were you gonna say?
Go on.
I just think it makes people more like laser focused into like defining like, what is it that you bring to the table as opposed to this person, where before when say the market maybe wasn't so saturated, I think more photographers had like more of like a mass appeal, but now it's getting more.
You need to be more specific. So how do you think you can accomplish that? You can actually sort of work out who you are and make your brand stand out. If everyone's trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to think like how I think I do it. I'm way more selective, maybe photos that I put out there. Especially social media is nowadays. It's definitely a huge thing, and it's a lot of times the first time people see you. So when you're putting up that one photo or a series of photos, I think being very selective and cohesive in what you put out. It's nothing new, but I think just having a very curated kind of look of like what you're trying to convey. Like, hey, I take these kind of photos. I think that's better instead of just like kind of watering it down a little bit and going like a safer route. But for me, it's I've kind of dived into like I like that harsh light. So that Australia light you were talking about, I've started kind kind of really digging like harder light, and I just like the way it shapes people. I like playing with shadows a little bit, but I also like color. I started realizing like, you know, a wedding day, it can be like beautiful, slow, quiet, somber. And I think a lot of times if that is your kind of photography style, those people that are having that particular wedding, they might see my work and be like, oh, those are nice photos, but look at this person. But for me, yeah, I'm a fan of people that are just laughing the entire time, like always touching each other, doing like a lot of weird things together when I'm pretending not to look. But yeah, I like movement, motion, kind of color. Like I think I've started going a little brighter. I started using a lot of film lately, which has kind of caused me to kind of go in that direction. But as I said before, when you're asking about the rangefinder stuff, it kind of being more methodical with my photos. You know, film does that for you. But also when I have a digital camera in my hand, I try not to just overload on the photo taking. I'm a lot more patient, you know, nowadays, and I just love like a good solid portrait. Like either, you know, have some cool elements to it, but yeah, it's fun. I've been trying to mix this, like maybe I'm not as heavy on the documentary kind of aspect as I used to be, but also I'm like a huge fan of like these surrealist portraits sometimes, and like maybe like setting people up for a few photos like a little bit more, but then completely removing myself like the rest of the day. I used to try to, you know, be a ghost and be way too candid.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, all right, like I have you here. Here's a cool spot. Here's some great light. Like I'm gonna make like a really cool photograph that might not happen naturally. So like here we go. And it's, you know, I'm not like moving, you know, body parts around, but I have an idea in my head, and I think I can kind of direct you into that. So
yeah,
I've been doing that more and more and having a lot of fun with it. But yeah, I mean, going back to your question, how do you stand out? I think it's just getting specific and cohesive without being boring. Sometimes being overly cohesive in your work, everything looks the same. But you know, if there's some like kind of like undertones to your, maybe if people look at a photograph for more than like a half a second, they'll kind of, you know, start seeing as they look through more of your work. So when I have couples and clients that, you know, maybe see like a little bit of humor in a lot of the photos I put out, or just, you know, maybe think off the bat like, oh, this guy might be a little sarcastic. I like that a lot, but I also love architecture. I love clean lines. I love like really, really striking composition. And yeah, I think I'm trying to be, you know, a little more precise in my photo taking these days, and just going nuts. But now that I said that out loud, though, like with like if I have like my film camera going, I feel like I'm way looser in the aspect. So it's kind of weird to think about right now.
What do you mean? Looser in what sense?
So like when I have like a film camera, I feel like I photograph like a lot faster. And like maybe I don't like think about or like structure a photo as much as I normally would. But, like when I'm taking, you know, like some bride and groom portraits, sometimes I want to set up like these like cool, like kind of editorial style shots. But that's usually like when I have a digital camera in my hand, and then I would maybe kind of bring in the film one. But yeah, I don't know. Now that I said it out loud, I'm trying to say it so that it makes sense. Like a loose and then like a more structured style of shooting, like mixed into one.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense. But
I've sometimes wondered whether actually, oddly, paradoxically, having a digital camera and the freedom to shoot as many frames as you want kind of makes you seek the perfect shot. And by having film, sometimes I feel like there's an expectation that, or I have an expectation, I'm not going to necessarily get the perfect image, but
yeah,
and that doesn't matter. It's a different approach to it somehow.
I like that. No, I mean that does make sense. Like,
yeah,
I like that a lot.
Because you're not going to just keep shooting until you perfect the image on film, because it just costs too much.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I'd be like, all right, I've got two rolls left.
Yeah,
I have X amount of shots to get it, and
yeah,
we might get it.
And if it happens, it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, That is true. But yeah, I'm slowly trying to, I think, transition as much to film as I can.
Okay.
But yeah, slowly getting there, having fun doing it, learning a lot,
Yeah.
kind of on the way, but it's
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Now, in terms of, you were saying there's sort of these schools of photography popping up that people are adhering to. So you're either this thing or you're that thing. Um, do you think it's important to not, if you want to stand out, do you think it's important to not actually do that?
I mean, I think it would be important because then you would literally be like in a category of your own.
Yeah.
If you didn't fit in any of those, and I think that would be exact like the ultimate goal would be in this singular category that you are only in. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be pretty sweet. But getting there is, I think any good photographer will say that like I'm not there. I think if anyone says like, oh,
Yeah.
definitely there, I like that's me
Dubious.
up here. Yeah, I'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
sweet ways. But yeah, I think that setting yourself apart is if yeah if people aren't changing a little bit throughout the years, I don't think they're going towards that ultimate goal of being in
Mm.
your own category. But kind of more generally speaking, yeah, like I would never say like, oh, pick a category that you think you closest fit into, and then like start calling yourself that. But I think it's nice that as a photographer, if you can mentally like picture like how maybe not what a couple looks like, but like how like a conversation with them would go. I think that would, for me, a lot of times, like when I either Skype with a couple or we get to meet up beforehand, I sometimes in my head I think like, oh, I think these people like this is going to be the type of conversation we're going to have because it's the type of conversation that I would want to have with a stranger or like a friend of mine.
Mm.
So that's I think about that a lot more, like people's personalities, like as opposed to like their taste in photos, because like if you were to look at all my photos and like all my wedding galleries, I'm sure they would be cohesive and have a particular look to them, but I don't think they would all necessarily like look the same. As like I would have maybe like some underlying like little things that I like to shoot, but I think for the most, like you have to be fluid a little bit in like the type of people that you photograph. But yeah, I think like when I think about the category I'm in, it's maybe not what my photos look like. It's more of like the people that ask me to photograph for them.
Okay, that's
That
interesting.
that
Yeah, it
makes sense.
does. Yeah, yeah. Um, Knowing what you know now, if you were starting out in the industry today, um, what would you do? How would you do things differently to what you did in the past?
I would take a shitload more photos right off the bat. I would, yeah, I would take. I would say, hey, don't get bogged down. Um, yeah, I would say don't get bogged down. Delegate if you can afford it.
Do you mean like outsource?
No, man, like my OCD kicks in way too much. I feel
Okay.
like, yeah, I feel like there's so much that aside calling, I would 100% always have to look through and make the selections for the photos that
Yeah.
I'm going to let other people see. And then photo wise, yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's just like I personally can't let up that control. I don't not like doing it. It's a very time consuming thing that a lot of people, outside the industry don't know about.
Mm.
That kind of what goes into it. But yeah, I don't mind. I think it's more things of I mean, there's a whole back like before you get into it. Oh, I'm a professional photographer. Like I do this full time. I take photos like this much out of the week, and then there's all this other stuff. But yeah, just kind of freeing up time. Take a lot of photos, and then get your taxes right off the bat. That's a
Business.
big one.
Yeah.
Like learning that first, and yeah, it's just you're always gonna look at photos. You're gonna see what's out there, especially in uh, today's world. But it's yeah, and I know a lot of people say this too, but it just if a lot of people say it, I think hammering it home makes sense. It's just like don't compare yourself to what's out there. There's no real industry standard that like what a wedding photo should look like. Just shoot what kind of makes you happy, and work with the people that make you happy. Because if you start kind of getting bummed out that you have to like go shoot a wedding or edit these photos, it's just, I think once you get down that path, it's something that will translate into the photos you end up taking.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keep a good mindset, do some yoga, focus on your breathing every once in a while.
Breathe, meditate.
But, yeah, it helps big time. But that's one thing too. Like I punch myself, in the head I don't, but it's take more photos. I need to keep taking as many photos just, for the sake of photography. It's definitely something that slows down once you start to see, where, if you're in season, you might not do it, but yeah, just go out, take some photos, do some fun stuff, stay creative. And
so are you talking about like style shoots or just anything?
I think just anything in general, but have a purpose, have a purpose for it. So for me, vacation photos, I love it. I turn into like this weird voyeuristic, architectural photographer that takes like photos of the sides and the back of people.
Yeah.
But it's just fun. It's I kind of give myself like a discipline of saying, all right, clean lines, good light, take all these photos. But I mean, a styled shoot, yeah, it doesn't have to be styled in any sort of wedding sense. I think just doing something creatively and changing it helps that creativity go
keep you fresh
a lot longer. Keep it fresh, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, like people ask me like, oh, what do you do? I just say I'm a photographer. They're like, oh, like what do you take photos of? I say, well, it's mainly weddings. The other 25% is just obscure commissions or editorial stuff. But yeah, I really don't want to label myself as a wedding photographer. I just happen to be a photographer that loves shooting weddings. Yeah.
If you weren't shooting weddings, what would you shoot?
So it's weird. Like when I first started taking photos, I hated taking photos of people. I didn't appreciate like what a portrait was, or maybe what it could mean to the person that you're taking it for, or someone else that knows them, or just some random person that sees it, and their brain starts going off in different directions. I love a lot of the people I follow now, and a lot of people so I try to assist photographers way outside of the wedding range as much as I possibly can, and just I'm in the search for like a perfect portrait. And if I never shot weddings, just like editorial work, and just getting to sit down with somewhat of a stranger, and having X amount of minutes or X amount of hours to get like a spread of fun, intriguing things would kind of really keep me going. So,
do you ever show that work in your sort of wedding world?
I think so. I think a lot of times, like in the like single portraits of people, like I like getting close. But yeah, I think a lot of it is, if I have like, the bride or the groom, or a really cool wedding guest, or someone in the bridal party or the family, I definitely focus a lot on just like sitting with them for a little bit, instead of saying like, oh, can I take your photo real quick? Boop, see ya. If I find them intriguing, or if I know that they have some special connection to the people that I'm there photographing for, sometimes I try to steal people for like 2 or 3 minutes and just be like, all right, let's like take a breath. I love like your suit. I love your dress. Like your hair looks crazy. I love it. Like, can I just take like a cool portrait of you real quick? I've been trying to focus.
So you'll do that at a wedding?
Yeah, at a wedding. If time allows for it. It doesn't happen all the time. Schedules are crazy. Schedules are, a lot looser or tighter, different events. But if I have time and, I can get like a quick little rapport with someone and just take like a really cool photo of them. Most of the time it's the bride or the groom. But I've been trying to have fun with that, because, you're already there. They know you're going to be taking photos of them. You have a rapport going with them already. If you can sneak someone away and set up like just a really fun, obscure shot, I've been trying to do that more and more. Trying to bring that outside of wedding inspiration like into
Into the
weddings.
weddings. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
and editing a lot less too. I think is one thing that's kind of transitioned over. Like a lot of like commercial work, um, by retoucher, or if I retouch, I don't do much. I just try to I become more apparent to try to nail it in camera and just have
Mm.
like an interesting thing set up. Um, but yeah, I think my work looks probably a little bit cleaner. But
Mm.
I dig it. I
Interesting.
like it. Yeah.
I mean, on the terms of making on the topic of making a good photo, what do you think does make a great photo?
Um, I think if it's a photo that makes you look, not like, again, going back to just there being so much bombarding your eyeballs, I think a good photo is something, for me, how I define it, of what I think a good photo is, if it makes me look at it for like more than 2 seconds,
Mm.
and then either like explore the scene for a second, or if just an expression, or a communication between two people or a group of people without saying anything. Like if I can pick up on that, or if I need to think about it for a second and then realize what it is, like, to me, that is a great photo. I'm also huge on just like very um, just kind of more dry humor photographs. Like if I can catch people doing like funny things, or like someone giving someone like a weird look at some point, like I love that in photos. But I had a friend tell me that what they thought a good photo was, always having kind of like three elements. So either having, you know, a look that, either conveys an emotion or something that someone is trying to tell you just through a look, uh, communication between two people or a group without actually saying anything, foreground element, a really bold composition, like a really unique light source, um, any cool element. I think, to me, a really good photo will have three in it at all times. So yeah, when I'm walking around taking photos on wedding days, I'm trying to think like, all right, I can have like the bride looking beautiful. If it's just on a wall, it's just on a wall. It's kind of maybe two things. I need to either run back and position this tree in the foreground, add some motion to them somehow, and maybe change my light source. So I'm always trying to think about having these three elements in photographs to give you a little kind of more perspective on what's maybe going around in the scene, or just looking visually cool.
Yeah.
It always works too. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
probably just gave way too many answers for what makes a good photo.
No, no, no.
But
I don't know. I'm always curious about that. It's funny though. I was
yeah, I mean,
thinking.
and again,
Sorry,
go
go on.
ahead. Sorry, I was saying it comes down to taste. I mean,
Yeah.
what makes a good photo is what's like what do you, it's different for everybody. So
Yeah. Yeah. Um, how do you think? So there's lots of wedding photographers out there, and I guess what I'm wondering is, how do you think that we could all work together to sort of strengthen the industry and make it stronger?
um, stop doing stuff for free when it's not necessary. Uh, yeah, just I wish there was just like this like it might exist out there. Someone might have written it, but just like this ethics code among photographers. But capitalism reigns supreme, and
Yeah.
and it is a business for a lot of people. But yeah, I think undercutting is a bad thing that uh, you know it screws over everybody. Yeah, you might get the job right now, but a year and a half, 2 years from now, you could be getting more jobs, but you're making the same amount of money that you were 2 years prior,
Mm.
uh, because just prices have gone down because of just what's out there.
Yeah.
I think
How?
that's a tough thing.
Yeah, it is. How have you handled sort of pricing?
I've always kind of gone by like a formula of how many bookings do I get in 4 months, uh, and like do I end up booking them? Is this consistent with the year before? What was my goal that I set for myself? And if I'm getting a ton of inquiries, and doing just a lot of work, slowly as experience goes up, I think prices equally go up every once in a while. Because ultimately, I think, like I tell my clients this sometimes, that you're not paying for just me there with a camera. You're paying for years of experience. You're paying for like a knowledge that you can only get from doing this for X amount of years, and being in X amount of situations, and just learning these little nuances that occur, for the most part, in all weddings. But you're also, like someone's taste, and like their aesthetic, and just knowing that, like, you can sleep and enjoy your day because I'm going to do what you're expecting me to do. As you've been around longer and longer, and you're very consistent and always doing good stuff, I think it's okay to raise every once in a while. Life gets more expensive as you're out on your own, and families grow, and different things change. But I've always stayed very comfortable. Like, again, money's not a motivator for me. For me, it's just having freedom, and taking care of our family, and not soon, but eventually, larger family. So yeah.
I sense a bit of anxiety there.
No, it's all good. Yeah, it's good. I'm ready. Yeah, we'll see. So.
It changes everything, but it's a good change.
Yeah. How many do you have kids?
Yeah, I've got 2 kids. Yeah, and I mean, it's. I think for me, this question of pricing is critical, because you get to this point where actually you do need to be charging decent sum of money in order to put your kids through school, and so it's. I'd love there to be some way that we could, work together as an industry that would make this sort of more realistic, and sort of educate sort of younger photographers, so they weren't sort of just undercutting constantly, because they're damaging the industry for us, but also for themselves, because they're stepping into this if they stay in the industry.
That's definitely a big thing. And I think aside from pricing, I think just that would probably be like my number one thing is just like here are the basics of like what a bunch of established people think like is a good way to, I don't know, maybe if these like unwritten rules of the road ever surfaced into something written, would be.
This keeps coming up, and people I'm speaking to who are more established, I would say, keep saying the same thing. So I think it's probably worth getting it out there, the message. Chris, what are you looking forward to?
That's a good question. Damn. I'm looking
surfing, or have you got any big projects on, or?
I've got a lot of fun trips lined up. That's really fun. I've got some personal weddings I have a lot of personal weddings that I'm just going to as a groomsman or a guest. So those are always fun when you can just like try to turn it off and just like enjoy. So that'll be a lot of fun. But I have some cool spots coming up. A lot of family personal stuff maybe growing at the end of the year. So super excited for that. And I have a lot of fun editorial commercial jobs as well, which it's that in itself is a huge learning process, and just trying to like dial in where I want to be with that. So it's almost like running 2 businesses at the same time that I keep pretty much entirely separate. But I'm excited for that. I have a goal for myself for 2020 that I'm kind of trying to steam towards. And
what is that?
It's kind of just to be 50-50. So by April 2020, I want to kind of bill the 50-50 for commercial work and wedding work.
Okay.
As long as people have me kind of join in and party for the weddings, I never would have thought I had so much fun dancing with strangers and like just like casually talking while like a bunch of guys I don't know are just putting pants on.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. Oh, I love that too.
Yeah.
I never thought I would enjoy it so much. So yeah, as long as people have me, I still want to do it. And but yeah, doing the more obscure work is, like I said earlier, it kind of keeps your brain fresh, fires different neurons.
Yeah.
Stresses you out in a different way. Makes you communicate with people in a different way. Much more forceful, much more, way more confident when you first talk to people in this industry, as opposed to just like, hey, I want to be your friend. Make sure I'm going to be at your wedding. Let's make sure our vibes work out so you guys don't get sick of me after 4 hours.
If people want to follow you online, where are you hanging out most?
Probably Instagram's one of the only things I check, and it's just _ Chris Glenn, 2 N's _
Okay.
And and there I have a link on there to the non-wedding stuff as well, but that's the main spot. I've been pretty good about posting to my website, my blog, new work. So
And what's the website address?
Just chrisglenn.com.
Okay.
And I've been trying to get better at posting on there much more frequently. So
yeah. All right, Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Cool. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, man.